Yes, guys, welcome to a brand new presentation. My name is Conan, and as of yesterday, I have just completed my first ever marathon. This is something that I've always wanted to do up until 4 months ago, basically, when I decided to randomly, you know what? Let me do a marathon. And this was super spontaneous. I think I was just talking with my friend. He was like, "Oh, I'm doing this marathon in February." This was back in October in Austin, Texas. I'm like, oh, awesome. And I actually had just come back from a run when we talked about this. Now I was like on this runner's high. I'm like, I just came back from a run that felt pretty easy. Haven't ran in a while, but I felt good. This guy just brought up a marathon. I'm like, you know what? Let me join you for the marathon. And I was a man of my word, and I actually did the marathon. My friend unfortunately did not follow through with that, but I stuck to my word and I practiced for it for literally 4 months. Yeah, as of yesterday, I did my first ever marathon and kind of crossed it off the list of my bucket list. And it was a great experience. I learned a lot throughout this entire experience, and I want to share them with you, basically. So I have 5 lessons that I want to share with you. So without any further ado, let's just start with point number one. And keep in mind, guys, these are not in any particular order. These are just 5 things that I actually learned during the marathon, or even like during the entire experience, but especially during the run, which was absolute hell. But I'll touch more about that the deeper we dive into today's presentation. So lesson number one that I learned from the marathon is that motivation is BS. It'll get you going, it'll get you excited for the first, especially on a marathon, for the first little bit, but after a while, like it's normally going to get you really far, right? You guys have probably heard me say this numerous times before, but motivation comes in ebbs and flows. It'll be really high for a certain time, but then it'll dip all the way down, right? But it's like, then what do you do when the motivation goes down? Do you just completely stop working towards your goals, or do you keep going regardless? If you keep going regardless, that means that you probably have some good discipline as well. So motivation will definitely get you going, but discipline keeps you going, especially on a marathon race. You guys got to keep in mind that a marathon is 26 miles. 26 miles. That's like what, 50 kilometers, something like that? It's a lot of just like steps. It's a lot of miles basically. And what I noticed right away is that when I, like yesterday, when the alarm went, um, when I started doing my marathon, when I started running, I was excited. I was like, damn, there's so many people. People are actually cheering us on. Like, damn, this is kind of cool. I feel good, right? Lots of motivation, lots of energy. But then I kid you not, after the first kind of like, I would say mile, when all the people were like back behind us, and now it was just like me running. I had no motivation whatsoever left. It was all discipline from there, right? And it's like that's just like a literally a huge example, especially when you run a marathon. It applies to life in general as well. Motivation will keep you going, but discipline is what gets you going. And now, in order to find your discipline, or in order to be more disciplined in whatever endeavor in life you want to be disciplined at, you have to know what your why is. You need to have purpose, because without a strong why, whether it's on your fitness journey, in your working career, in your relationship, without a strong purpose, or with no purpose in general, it's going to be really difficult to continue on doing that. I want you guys to think of a time when you've had no motivation whatsoever, but you went to the gym anyway. Why did you go to the gym? It's probably because you had a strong why or a strong purpose for doing so, right? And there's no right or wrong answer here. It could be different for different people. Like some people, their why for getting into better shape is to increase their longevity, to be there for the special occasions, for their family, for their kids, right? They actually want to live up into 100, for example, or something like that, right? And that's really important to them. Whereas other people, their why maybe, oh, I want to impress this girl at the beach, or I want to impress this crush that I have in class or something like that. But if that's what gets you out of bed on the days when you kind of feel tired, lethargic, and lazy, if that's what actually gets you out of bed, then all power to you. Like, please keep doing your thing. If she can motivate you to keep going, awesome, keep doing it. Or I guess keep you disciplined to keep doing it, keep doing it. Whereas if that's not really it for you, let's say your purpose for doing this is to attract this girl, but then when you feel really lazy and you know you're supposed to go to the gym and work out, but you don't do it anyway, and you thought about your purpose for doing it, you're like, she's not that important. Let me just continue on playing video games, or let me just continue sleeping in, or let me hit the snooze button, whatever it may be, right? Well, then it's like clearly that purpose or that why is not strong enough for you, right? So With no purpose in life, it's going to be extremely difficult to go through difficult challenges in life, because life will get challenging. Doing a marathon will be hard. At least for me, it was very, very hard. The hardest thing I've ever done. So, and when things do get hard, when things do get kind of challenging, when there is a bit of adversity, you'll just quit when things get hard, right? If there's no strong purpose for continue on doing it, you're just going to quit. Whereas if you have a strong, deep reason, like, okay, no matter how I feel tired, whatever. I feel lazy, whatever. I feel heartbroken, whatever. I'm going to show up for myself anyway, because I have this purpose and this reason, and that's why I'm going to follow through with it, right? So that's lesson number one. Motivation gets you going. Discipline keeps you going. So figure out your why and figure out your purpose in life, in whatever endeavor in life you want to succeed at, right? Lesson number two is the moment you stop is the moment you lose. So as long as you keep moving forward, you are still progressing. I want you guys to imagine this mountain that you want to climb, right? Let's say you start at ground zero and you want to climb this mountain. How do you get there? Do you just magically teleport there within a second? Or do you take this massive like jump where it's like from ground zero, you just jump on top of the mountain? Or, by the way, that's not how you do it. Or do you take small little steps at a time, and then eventually you will get there, right? And no matter how small those steps are, you are slowly but surely inching closer to the top of the mountain, right? And we all go at different paces. Some person may sprint up the hill, the other person may pace themselves up the hill. But as long as you get on top of the hill, that's all that really matters. No matter how slow you go, as long as you keep moving forward, you are making progress and you will eventually get there, right? Because the moment that you physically stop moving and start going backwards, let's say you're going and going and going and going, you're like, oh, this is kind of difficult. I have no purpose in life. This is getting hard. My motivation isn't there. I have no discipline. Let me just stop and go backwards, right? If that is you, well, then you've lost, right? Because that's like you've completely, like, if you fail, if you quit, you failed, right? But then, like, as long as you, like, no matter how slow you go, whether it's, for example, in a marathon, like, let's say you go really fast, you go at a pretty decent pace in the first couple miles, but then afterwards you notice that you're slowing down a bit, and then the deeper you get into it, you slow down a bit, you slow down a bit, you slow down a bit. This is exactly what happened to me. I did not pace myself whatsoever in the first. So let me tell you guys this. So basically the marathon that I did was basically two loops. So there was, like, at the same time, there was the half marathoners and the full marathoners. So the half marathoners just had to do this one loop around, like, it was like at the beach, did like a full loop. Whereas the full marathoners had to do the entire thing twice, basically, right? So two full rounds of that. When I did on my first loop, which was 13 miles, I was averaging, like, or the time on the clock was 1:18. So I ran 13 miles in 1 hour and 18 minutes, which I thought was pretty good, right? But then I'm going to tell you guys after what happened. But what I noticed is that as soon as I hit that 13 mile, I just hit this massive wall where it's like I definitely noticed myself slowing down. People were catching up on me, people were passing me, and I was going slower. But I did not stop going at all. Like, despite me moving slower, I was still moving forward, right? So I was still inching closer to the goal, step by step. It was brutal. It was horrendous, but I kept moving forward. And what I like to remind myself during that time in just major discomfort, I just do one more step. Just do one more step. Just do one more step. Can you do one more step? Just do one more step. And also, I like having, like, small little goals. So there's, like, small little there's, like, either boosts or like things, like landmarks, basically, that I set for myself, that, okay, I'm gonna run this final stretch and then I'll stop. I kept telling myself that, right? Because I was like, okay, running a full marathon is hard, but if I can kind of, like, go to this kind of, like, small little stretch, which is maybe like half a mile up the road. Okay, can I do that? Yes, I can. And then once I hit that, I'm like, okay, well, can I run a bit more? Yes, I can. Can I run a bit more? Yes, I can. So having, like, this kind of, like, breaking down your big goal into smaller goals that seem more attainable can actually, mentally at least, kind of keep you going, right? But the gist of it, as long as you don't stop, you cannot lose, basically, right? So just kind of keep on going. Now, the third lesson that I learned is that, and this is something that I really thought about while I was running the race, because, like, I was so excited to just finish the thing, especially after mile 13. I was like, I dread this. I do not want to be here. I don't want to run ever for the rest of my life again. Why am I doing this? And I had to remind myself during this time because, like, while you're running a marathon, your mind will play tricks on you. Your mind will tell you so many weird things. It'll say, okay, just stop, just take a small little break. You maybe do it next year, you'll do better, blah, blah, blah. Like, it'll tell you so many crazy things. And what I had to constantly keep reminding myself of was this: it's not about the destination, it's about the journey. And I know this is a cliche. You've probably heard this 10 million, thousand times before, but you really have to realize this, right? We spend 99% of our time in the journey phase. And so why not just like embrace it and enjoy being in that very moment? Similar analogy going back to the whole climbing the mountain thing. You're down here and you want to come up here. Once you eventually do hit that mountain, what are you going to do? Are you going to celebrate? I'm sure you'll celebrate. For how long? Maybe a minute, 2 minutes, an hour, maybe a full day, 2 days, 2 weekends, a full week, whatever. But eventually, you're going to be done celebrating, and then what are you going to do? Or you're just going to set a next goal for yourself, right? Because that's kind of like the entire purpose of life, right? Like, you set a goal, you hit that goal. Now what? You set a new goal, you hit that goal. So we constantly kind of like keep moving the goalpost. And now that we kind of like fully realize this, but hang on a minute. Well, my entire life, I've been setting goals for myself and I've been hitting goals. And then I set a new goal and then I hit that goal. Like, for instance, like my first goal was to what example could I use? Well, my first goal, let's say social media, was to hit 10,000 followers, right? Once I hit that goal, was I happy? Sure, I was happy. But then what did I do right away? I was like, okay, well, how do I get up to 50,000 followers? Once I hit that goal, what did I do next? Well, how do I get up to 100? Or then I constantly keep telling myself like, oh no, I'll be happy once I hit 100, or I'll be happy once I hit 150, or I'll be happy once I hit 200,000, right? But it's like, now, like, just saying that out loud, it's like, it sounds silly because we're constantly just like setting the goalpost. And it's like, if we tell ourselves, I'll be happy when this happens, I'll be happy once this happens. Well, it's like, you'll never actually be happy then, because knowing you, as we're all human beings, you're just going to keep setting the goalpost higher and higher and higher. So you're just pretty much like, what's the analogy of like the donkey with like the carrots dangling over his head, where it's like, no matter how much he does, like the carrot just like keeps like, it's always stuck there where it's like he can never actually attain the thing, right? So it's like one of those analogies. So this moment you kind of realize that we spend the majority of our time in the journey phase, the moment you can like start to like appreciate it for what it is and start to like really enjoy it. Because like if we spend most of our time here, like why not enjoy this? Like 99% of our life is spent in this journey. Would you rather be happy 99% of your time on this earth, or only 1% of the time? And even that 1% of the time may be like marginal for like a couple minutes, a couple seconds until you hit that new goal, right? So it's really important to kind of like appreciate the journey a lot more than just the destination. The destination is just like an arbitrary thing that we set for ourselves, right? Because the destination is always going to change. First it'll be this, then it'll be up there, and then it'll be up there, and then it'll be up there, and it's just gonna keep on going upwards, right? So more of a mental thing to kind of think about as you kind of go about life, not just in fitness, but in your work career, with your relationship, and all these other things in life, right? Now the fourth lesson here is that your body can stand almost anything, but it's really your mind that you have to convince. So I have a quick little story to tell you guys. And so this is something that went through my head the entire time, where it's like, okay, mentally, I'm not saying this to boast. I'm just saying this. I'm literally just stating a fact. Mentally, I am very strong. I am very strong mentally. And the reason why I say this so confidently with a lot of conviction is because I push my body to the absolute limits. Once I hit mile 13, I definitely noticed I was slowing down my pace a bit. And mile 13 up until mile 18, I was aching. I was aching in pain. And now there's a couple reasons why I was aching in pain. Something that I can just kind of like maybe tell you guys right now. I did not train properly for the marathon. I did not eat enough foods prior to the marathon. I did not fuel my body properly at all. I probably wasn't hydrated enough. I did not have enough electrolytes at all. So I learned a lot when it comes to like the preparation phase, right? But mile 13 to mile 18, I was aching in pain a lot. And this is really when my mind kind of like played tricks on me. But I kept going. Like I kind of kept going. Like I mentioned earlier, like I kept setting these goals for myself. It's like, okay, once I hit this kind of like point, I'll stop. But then I kept setting like a new goal for myself. Like, okay, now, once I hit this goal, I'll stop. Or no, once I hit this goal, I'll stop. But I kind of kept going up until mile 18. I remember it was mile 18 because they have like those I guess markers that every mile you kind of reach, they have like a thing reminding you how far you are. Mile 18, and I remember this was like around like the beach area, but this is the time when I and my entire goal for the marathon, and the reason why I kind of kept going, because my entire goal for the marathon was basically just to keep running. I did not want to finish the marathon walking it. And that was like my only goal. And I had really high standards for myself. I was like, okay, no matter what happens, I'm just going to keep running. No matter how slow I run, I'm going to just keep running. And I kid you not, right before mile 18, like I was dragging my feet. I don't even know what it would look like, but imagine just like the weirdest run you've ever seen. It wasn't even running at the point. It was like like a slow. It wasn't walking. It was definitely slower than speed walking for sure. But it was like I was still kind of running, like dragging my feet. And then eventually, Malateen, I stopped running, and it just seemed like I failed. And not only that, I said like I had to lay down. I laid down, and I was like, "What is happening? What is happening?" I wasn't embarrassed. I was just like, because deep down, guys, like I could have not told anyone this story, and just I could have just like completely ignored this part, but I did kind of like tell everyone this, and it was more so for myself. Like I could have told nobody what would have happened here, right? And that wouldn't have mattered. But at least I'll know, right? Because I told myself that I would do the marathon and I would not quit and I would keep running, but I stopped, and that really kind of like tore me apart. I was like, shit, like I stopped. Why did I stop? And then I tried getting up. I could not get back up. I could not feel my legs. And it was one of those weird things where I don't know if you've ever experienced this before, but I tried laying down, and no matter what position I would be in, I was like on my back for a bit, I was on my stomach, I was on my side, I was moving my legs around. No matter what position I would put myself in, I was just in constant pain. Pain, pain, pain. Anything like everything lower body, like my glutes were just completely dead. My calves were on fire. My hamstrings, my quads, everything was just like almost like numb in a way. And I was so thankful that like one of the cars kind of drove past me, and okay, during this time, like a bunch of people ran past me as well, obviously, and some of them were encouraging, like, "Oh, don't give up, you can get up, you can get up." Others were like, "Oh, dude, come on, come on, come on, come on," like more like hardcore David Goggins style, like, "Oh, dude, it doesn't matter." I was like, "Dude, no, you don't understand. Like, I literally cannot feel my legs. I physically cannot get up, right?" But then luckily, one of the cars came past me, and they kind of drove me to one of the stations, the water stations, and I was definitely dehydrated. I definitely was lacking electrolytes. They had pickle juice. One of the things, I've never had pickle juice before. I've never drank it before. I drank a liter of pickle juice. I kid you not. I had like a bunch of cups. Definitely up to. I definitely drank up to a liter of pickle juice. Just I guess it replenishes like your electrolytes, your salt levels in your body, and still at this time, like I was drinking water, pickle juice, and I was just sitting down and I was still like I'm moving around, uncomfortable. I don't know, like I felt fine, like stamina wise, I felt fine. Mentally, I felt fine. Everything upper body felt fine, but just my lower body, like I hit my physical limit, and I showed myself in that very moment that like, okay, I have reached my physical limit. This is physically, not mentally. Like mentally, I felt I could have kept pushing myself, but physically, I hit the breaking point. I just like my legs could not. My legs were about to break, basically, right? So I rehydrated for about 30 minutes, had my pickle juice, and thankfully, there's one person. So I got out of the car and to grab some more pickle juice. And I got out of the car, and there was this one guy. His name was Michael. For some reason, he was really like he really was. He insisted that I kept on running because I had almost like made up my mind that I'm not going to finish the marathon. I'm just going to stay in this car, and I'm just going to drive me back to the final, like to the station, and I'm going to drive back home. Right. I had kind of already made up my mind because I was like, there's no way that I can physically move my body knowing that I still have 6 miles left. But for some reason, After this guy Michael came up to, his name was Michael. We talked the entire time afterwards, but he came up to me. He's like, "Dude, come with me, come with me, come with me." Like I was like, "No, dude, trust me. Like you don't understand. Like I cannot do this." He's like, "No, dude, trust me. Like come on, come on, come on, come on." I was like, "Fuck." Okay, like okay, fine, whatever. And I tried walking. I was like, "Okay, I don't know if I can keep up with you jogging, but I'll definitely I'll walk it. I'll walk." He's like, "Dude, that's fine. I'll walk with you." I was like, "Damn, okay, awesome, thanks, man." So we kind of like we walked for a bit, couple miles in, I think 2 miles in, he was like, Michael was like, "Hey, how are you feeling?" I'm like, "Dude, you know what? I feel a bit better. Like, I feel like I was still in pain, but it was on like, like at least I could feel my legs a bit, right?" And he's like, "Okay, well, do you want to run a bit?" I'm like, "Sure, okay, let's try it." So we went super slow jogging pace, right? And I was like, "Damn, like I think I can actually finish this marathon." I was like, "Oh my goodness." And I was like, wow, like I can actually finish this marathon. So literally on mile 20, I started running again, and it was again the slowest run ever. But eventually, I finished the marathon. I finished the marathon after completely breaking, or like I had it was probably cramped to be honest, but like I've never experienced that before, and this was almost like this entire experience was just a reminder of myself, for myself mainly, to really remind myself of like what hard feels like, because practicing up before this, like for the marathon, practicing for this, I maybe had a I didn't really realize what hard really felt like. Like I was like, okay, I went for a run today, I ran 10 miles, whatever, good practice. Is this what hard is supposed to feel like? Like I don't know, like it was kind of challenging. Could I have kept going? Yeah, I could have kept going. And like I knew I'd push my limit on a marathon. At least now I know my limit is 18 miles, at least for me physically, as of right now, right? And it was just a really good reminder to show myself, not anyone else. I did not do this for anyone else. I did this for myself, to really push myself to the limit and really just showcase to myself that I am capable to push my body to the absolute limit. I know my mindset is strong. I just wanted to see what my body was physically capable of. And it was just a good reminder to show myself that, okay, this is what hard feels like. Now I've kind of like set the standard that, okay, unless I reach this point where my legs are literally about to fall apart, I can keep going, right? And I think it's really important for all of us to keep that in mind, to at least know what our breaking point is, to know what failure, what true failure looks like on like an exercise, right? When you're squatting, when you're deadlifting, when you're bench pressing, when you're just exercising in general, like knowing what true failure looks like, not just your half-assed failure, like, oh, this hurts, it's uncomfortable, let me stop. Like, no, true physical musculature failure. It's the most uncomfortable thing you will probably ever experience, but I guarantee you it builds so much strong freaking character. Because once you go through that physical pain of literally torturing your own body for no good reason whatsoever, like no one told me to do this marathon. No one put a gun over my head saying, "Hey, you have to run this marathon." I did this like for myself. I did this um like what's the word, like I did like for me, like I did this like out of just like sheer I want to do this, right? No one can take that away from me, and this just built so much character, so much character. And now I want to go to the last and final point, which is it's a marathon, not a sprint. No pun intended there. I mean, of course it's a pun, but nothing great ever was built in overnight. It often takes days, weeks, months, years, even decades to build something credible or something worth having, right? So don't rush the process. Those are the lessons I learned from running my first ever marathon. It was the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. The hardest thing I've done in my life. It was a completely just like the experience in itself, like I will never forget any of it. It was just like it was all of it. It was torture, it was pain, it was failure. Different emotions were involved, and like just like letting myself down, like, oh, what is God gonna think of me? What am I gonna tell my friends? Like what am I gonna think of myself? And then being able to still finish it afterwards regardless, and now making this presentation the very next day and my legs are absolutely just torn apart. Like I cannot, like I can feel my legs, but they're the sorest they've ever been. This, like, no leg workouts have ever replicated this feeling ever before. It was just like, and by the way, I finished the marathon. I think it was like in 5 hours. So I did 30 miles in 1.18, 1 hour and 18. And the last 30 miles in, what was that? 4 hours and, no, 3 hours and 45 minutes, basically. Because I took that 30-minute break and I walked for a bit and then I jogged. But yeah, it was a really good experience. I'm definitely going to do it again. But yeah, it's just something no one can ever take that away from me. And I'm just proud of myself for doing this, just sticking through with it. I definitely learned a lot in terms of like practicing better for this, feeling up better, actually drinking more pickle juice during the run, all this stuff. But I'll let you guys go. Hopefully you guys take something out of this and you can start kind of implementing some of these tips that I learned from the marathon into your everyday lives, whether it's in your fitness lives, in your professional lives, in your relationship lives, whatever it may be. So leave a comment down below and let me know what you guys think of this. And yeah, I'll see you guys soon. Peace. Now, if you want to be around a community of like-minded people just like yourself who will educate you, motivate you, and inspire you to absolutely demolish your health and fitness goals, come join the Barbarian Squad down below. I guarantee you, you will not regret it one single bit, and I'll see you inside.